Hello, guys. I'll be getting started here in a few minutes. Just give people time to join before I get started. Can I get a confirmation that my microphone's good and clear? I recently purchased a new one specifically for doing this type of stuff. And if you have questions during the talk, just put them in the chat. I've got two screens set up. So I can watch the chat now. I know one of the times I didn't have the second screen and it was kind of frustrating because I missed a couple questions. But going to give this 4 more minutes. I'll start at 3:10 and we'll go over it. Should be an interesting talk. As always, I got some memes put in. I cover a lot of options. And I want to preface this with this is based on the knowledge that I have available to me and the resources available to me at this point. Things could change in the future as we learn more about the platform. I actually had a really great conversation with John from Torque right before this talk to discuss timing corrections and how we don't necessarily know if the timing correction is knock versus learned knock versus other interventions or the trims. And I just wanted to preface some of that. Some of the terminology I'm using today could change in time as we learn more. Oh, the video stopped? Is it still stopped? Can you hear me? If I could get confirmation on that from someone. Because I still show myself as sharing. No sound? Anyone else having that problem? Can I get some more confirmation? Okay, you might want to restart. Like if you're on a low connection, it could give you some issues. Awesome. I'll be getting started here in just like 2 more minutes. I'm chugging down a cherry Coke Zero and um, taking a little breather before we get started, and to give people time to connect. And as I said a little bit earlier, I want to preface with this is based on the knowledge we have today. Everything I'm sharing, it's not the end all be all. Um, like I said, I had some great talks about timing and how it's done, and also there's some changes coming in version 17 firmware JB4. Show me your search history. Oh man. Okay. Live producer. Lots of meme searching. Race gas. Facebook. Come on, I'm an InfoSec guy. You think there would be anything shady in my history? I do all that on separate virtual machines. All right, we'll get started. 1 more minute. Ooh, a K900 with WMI. That is awesome. If you want to tweak that, let me know. I have threatened to get a K900 a couple times, or a G80. No, the more interesting thing you should want to see of mine is not my search history, but this history is more interesting, at least to me. Search history. How about data zap history? There you go. And that's just since I started uploading things to data zap. All right. One more drink here, and then we'll get started. And like I said, if you have chats or questions, please put them in the chat channel. Stage 2 ECU. Who's stage 2 you have? That's interesting. I will be talking about the lap 3 a little bit. Yes, I'm still learning the lap 3, and I'll cover that as I go through. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself set up here. Okay, there is the slideshow button. Monitor, primary monitor, from beginning. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. The talk today is methanol. Like, it's not meant to be the end all be all, but it is a intro to methanol and why it kicks ass, because it really does. So if you've been to my talks before, this is a repeat slide, but hey, sorry, you have to listen to it. I'm Will. I love to hack things. I have a background in car hacking. Um, I was the guy who hacked Hyundai Blue Link in 2017. It was in the news really big. I've done some beta work on the Comma AI with helping them test and validate the platform for self-driving on the Kia Stinger. I've led teams at DEF CON in first, second, and third place in the DEF CON car hacking challenges. Previously, I was a car tuner at one point in my life. I spent about 3 years working full time, and I did part time for quite some time, even before and after when I was full time as a side job. I've taken the EFI 101 certification, the AEM Generation 1, Generation 2 standalone certification. Those are all pretty old now, but at the time they were the things to have. I was one of the log reviewers on the world's fastest Corvette. The car ran sixes. And my job on it was literally to look at logs and find anomalies. Um, was really fun to do, and I didn't get to do as much as some of the other guys on the team of tuners, but it was still fun to be part of the game when I was in. I did tune the world's fastest Trailblazer SS all-wheel drive at one point. It ran tens. That thing moved out for a big old all-wheel drive Trailblazer. Also did a four-door G35 into the nines. And those are all solo tune projects. Open source, I did a bunch of Subaru stuff. So the kind of stuff I'm doing for you guys here, where I'm reviewing logs and giving suggestions, that's how I got started tuning actually in the Subaru scene. I was helping people review their logs on other people's tunes, and then later I started writing my own tunes and became a pro tuner because I was inspired by people. I've got expertise in GM, Nissan, Infiniti, Mitsubishi, Subaru, AEMs. I would not say that I am an expert yet on the Kia Stinger, but I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable on it and spend a lot of time in it. I currently been doing beta testing on the Torque Stage 1 and Stage 2. Um, I think the Stage 1 is an amazing friggin' tune as it sits, and it's a great candidate for a back end flash for methanol guys. I'll prove it more here soon as I get my new tires. I am an InfoSec engineer. This is my full-time job, and I am a ham operator, and I like throwing it in there because I am a super nerd. And if this doesn't prove it, well, I don't know what else would. So let's keep it going. So let's talk about methanol. What is methanol? So methanol is, it's an alcohol-based fuel. Sometimes they call it wood grain alcohol. It it has less energy per part than gasoline, but there's lots of things about it that make it more beneficial than gasoline. Its stoich, which is the optimal air fuel ratio for the burn, is a lot richer than gasoline, which means that you're going to cool the cylinders down more when you're injecting that, and the car's trying to reach stoich. Octane rating is about 114, though there's a lot of discussion about how you rate the octane rating of methanol, but for today, to keep it simple, we're going to say it's around 114. Um, it's commonly used as an additive to raise octane in race engines. It's also used for cleaning windshields. It's highly toxic compared to ethanol. Please don't drink it. You will die. It won't be good. It burns cooler than gasoline, which is a nice benefit for controlling temperatures. So, what are the benefits of methanol? First, on GDI cars, I think it's really nice because it helps clean the valves. On a port injection car, normally you have fuel injector spraying fuel with the valves, you got heat and all that in play that helps clean the valves up. On our cars, a lot of times you do we'll go into that in a minute. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted by the questions. So it helps clean up the valves by spraying the fuel at it, and it really does help. I've taken apart engines before that have had methanol in them, and the valves are usually way cleaner than the cars that have not. Same applies for ethanol on port injection, but we can't do port injection yet. Using the charge pipe injection would apply a similar benefit, though. It reduces the load on the high pressure fuel pump. One of the things you'll hear the guys who are chasing records talk about sometimes is crashing the fuel pump. And what that means is you've exceeded the amount of demand that the fuel pump can handle. So it usually happens at higher boost levels. I'm not going to throw out a magic number for anybody because the number seems to be different on different cars. But it definitely reduces the load because you're actually adding basically a seventh injector to the car that's injecting not gasoline but methanol. It reduces the fuel trims incurred by piggybacks. I can't stress this one enough. So one of the biggest issues I see with piggyback cars is you're adding boost to the car, and the way it adds it is it's lying to the car and spoofing in extra boost. So the car actually doesn't know that that extra air is there, other than it has to add fuel because its air fuel sensors are reading wrong. So this is called like a closed loop correction. I'm not going to go too crazy into this, but the idea is the more boost that you spoof in with your juice box or lap 3, the more your trims are going to go up. The way to offset this is add some methanol in because now you're spraying more fuel and you can see it in the logs. The trims go down. The next thing it does, I love this, it reduces IATs, that's your air intake temps. Cooler temps equals more power. It also raises your octane, which is pretty awesome. Though I will say on some of the cars we're playing with now, I'm beyond the point of where octane matters in a few of those. All right. So let's talk about some misconceptions because there is a lot of bad information about methanol, and I'm hoping I don't spread any new ones. And if I do, I will do my best to correct it. So some misconceptions is more boost equals more power. This is not the case. There's too many other variables in play that if you don't understand the log, just adding boost does not mean you're going to go faster. And actually, a few of the guys that I've been working with, their settings that they were set to were slower than my settings at lower boost levels because we clean things up. So, more boost does not equal more power. There's a lot more going on. If you want to learn more about some of that, watch my logging talk. Your car will blow up if you run out of methanol. So this actually used to be the case. And the reason is older cars had what was called open loop fueling. So when you were pushing the throttle to the floor, it would not correct the fuel based on the air fuel sensors. It only would correct that during cruising times. So to run methanol, what you would have to do is you'd tell the car that I want to run a obscenely lean number. So on a Subaru for a methanol with a normalized size jet, I would have to go in and go, okay, I want to make this car run at a 13.0. Now, a Subaru at 13.0 is dangerous, but the methanol would bring it back down to like a 12.0. So, if you ran out of methanol, there's a chance the car could knock itself to death. On our cars, that doesn't happen. What ends up happening is the car tries to fix the fuel up until the point where it either usually what happens is the fuel pump crashes. So the car tries to correct the problem. It can't correct the problem enough. It keeps adding fuel. The fuel pump crashes. Game over. The methanol shut off, but your car didn't explode in most cases. There could be some edge cases. I don't want to say this is for everyone, but this is definitely the case in general with our cars because they're closed loop. Also, the piggybacks have some cool fail safes on them. One of the things I really like, and I've seen this on the Lap 3 and the Juice Box, is the Lap 3 I know a little less about, just to be fair, but it definitely has a check that makes sure the pump is flowing and doing what it's supposed to be doing. And the Juice Box is the same thing. It makes sure the flow is there, and it actually monitors the flow. And if the flow's not where it expects it to be, it doesn't add as much boost. And I think that's a pretty cool safety to have. There used to be ways on other cars with various standalone methanol injection kits to do like boost control solenoid bypasses and things like that, and that's how we would handle some of these problems. But it's a little bit different because we have electronic boost control, wastegate control solenoids or actuators. I think that's probably the right term for it. Another big misconception I see is that methanol, 100% methanol is better than like a 75-25 mix. So this comes down to your temperatures. If you have low ambient temperatures, run 100% methanol all day long on the piggybacks. woohoo, you're gonna get great results. But um, if you're dealing with hotter temperatures, having a little bit of water in that mixture actually will suck more heat out of the air because per part, water actually will, in a quicker fashion, pull heat out of the air than the methanol will. At least that's to my understanding and what I've always been explained to me and what I've read. I could be a little off on that explanation, but in general, hot temperatures add some water, cool temperatures go 100%. Um, Next big misconception I've seen is that the default methanol settings in any given piggyback, now I will say I've again less lap 3, but on the juice box side, will work for everyone. Some of the cases is they work, but the truth has been that every car I've played with so far with the methanol kit, we can make better. And there's lots of ways we go about it. Let's talk about methanol mix because this can be kind of controversial, and I'm not going to get into a big debate here. I know that people are going to get into the science and stuff, but I'm going to tell you what really matters at the end of the day. What matters at the end of the day isn't if you measure it by weight or by volume, but that you measure it consistently the every time. We're not dealing with ways to measure this thing in a super precise manner in which what we inject matters as much for what we're doing with the tune. What really matters is that we're seeing the same trims. We're seeing, the timing under control at this point. That we're seeing the IETs dropping. And less about how you're mixing it in the end game because you're still only off by what? Maybe I think it's like 5% if you do it one way versus the other. So what I like to use myself is if you can do it, is 100% uh, methanol, which could be M1, or I have some stuff I just bought that's RC car stuff. And I like to mix it with boost juice. And there's two reasons I like to use boost juice. One is it's red. I like being able to see it in the line. And two, I know that the water, like the type of water they used in it's already the right stuff, and I don't have to worry about picking up distilled water from the store or something. Have you tried playing with RPM PWC? Yes, I have. I have played with it quite a bit, and I'll explain a little bit of that when we get towards the end. I've definitely played with the JB because actually my car I don't use map 7 because I am map 6 with the back end tune. So let's talk about some of the other methanol mix stuff. Boost Juice is a nice place to start. You can buy it on Amazon. It's only like 49.51. So if you wanted to play and get your feet wet with methanol, it'll get you in the way. But if you really want to make power, full M5, M5 is cool, but it's corrosive. It can eat your pumps. But yeah, M5 makes some power, makes some big power. If you don't care about your pumps or things like that, hey. Um, Yellow heat. So I used this as a last resort to bring my methanol percent up because I actually didn't realize where I could get 100% M1 originally, and I knew I could get that at the hardware store or parts store. So I was mixing in for myself 5 bottles or 6 bottles of heat into my 1 gallon tank, and the rest with boost juice. Um, Window washer fluid. Now, I came from the Subaru world and Mitsubishi world where everyone loved this, and I'm gonna say I've seen so many pumps kill themselves over the years. I would not use it. Just not a good idea. Um, I don't like using the heat either, but it was a last resort. The window washer fluid I've definitely seen failures because of. When I've seen the failures, every single time there was like a calcification inside the pump. Because we tore a couple of the pumps apart. We tore down lines, and you could see it inside the brass. Um, and these were guys that were using it all the time, but I just wouldn't use it. 100% methanol. This is a great option in colder climates. And then the next thing I've alluded to here is how the hell do you get methanol? Um, so I learned your local race shop. I'm in California. All the ones are closed, and I can't really get that at the moment. Local RC shops actually carry it. You can get 100% methanol there. Make sure you're getting methanol, not nitromethane. They are different. Uh, Amazon, they carry Boost Juice and 100% methanol. One of the guys in the discussion group actually showed me, and I didn't even realize it, and I ordered some 100%. So I won't be using heat ever again. I've got 100% the Torco stuff, and apparently Diesel Dudes also sells it. Some racetracks sell it. Yeah, that's exactly, Tim. I've heard that too, that you can get volatile because it's more volatile than M1. But I do know guys who have injected M5 before. Not saying it's a good idea. You can sometimes get methanol at the racetrack. Um, Chemical supply companies will get you methanol, but it's really expensive. So if you're in a pinch and you really want 100% methanol, you could look around for those. Um, but in general, Amazon got me my bottle just the other day. M1, is that the best? 100% methanol in general is the best. I'm not going to play picking sides, teams, or brands. If it's 100% methanol, it's 100% methanol. I'm going to take them at value and go with it. So let's talk about some common methanol issues besides being addicted to the extra power it brings. Air in the lines. At least 3 people I have worked with on their cars have had this issue. Um, you can you fix it by just purging the lines. Not too bad. Improper settings. I've seen this quite a few times too. Sometimes people put the wrong value in the wrong place, or sometimes when it saves, it corrupts the values. Always double check your values. But the best way is just double check the install, double check the config, or ask. You know, um, when verifying your configs, there's a little bit of discussion regarding signal scale between either 60 or 90. I haven't actually got a real opinion on which way is better. I run mine at 60 and it works. Uh, some bad grounding. This one happens a lot too, and bad grounding can actually present itself in a few ways. You could have a weak pump, or you could have no pump at all. Clogged needle. I want to thank Kyle for this one here because we've been troubleshooting Kyle's car and had some issues with it, and I'm like working through them with him through the logs and purge push prime button. Okay. He cleaned out all of his stuff. There was a little bit of buildup in there. He used a tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of sea salt, and distilled white vinegar. And I'm gonna get him to share his videos of that on this thread when we're done. Um, but it worked. We figured out that he had some buildup, and he also had a loose atomizer piece. So we just had to tighten the screw on that one. And we noticed this, and I'll show you how we found the problem here in a moment. So what do we watch for? Uh, we watch for the methanol flow on the JB4. If you're using map 7, the methanol flow should be 100%. And if it's not 100%, the car has something going on with it and it needs fixed. Map 7 works, and I'll talk about this more in a few minutes, but it works very much based on that flow. Uh, Map 7 used to be Map 8 if you haven't updated to the latest version. On the lap 3, we look for methanol value equals 14. Uh, that's how you know it's flowing properly on the lap 3. Again, I'm still new at the lap 3, but I will show it off in the logs. That's a good question. I don't know who makes the best nozzles. Uh, that would be a fun 202 talk to do some more splitting. Dig in. What else do I look for? I look to make sure timing is stable. Now, I'm saying no knock here, but I'm using that as a general term to talk about no corrections. So I want to see everything look the same. I don't want to see corrections on one cylinder versus another. I look at fuel trims, and I look for throttle close, which is usually related to fuel trims. So let's uh, let's look at some. So I'm going to look at a methanol log here from a juice box of a guy that I was helping fix. Oh, well, that was great. Ha! PowerPoint just got angry from me clicking the link. Ooh, man. She borked herself. That was great. Well, real quick here. Let me relaunch my PowerPoint. All right, let's go back to where we were. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hit open link. Is that gonna crash it again? Okay, today I learned do not use open link inside of PowerPoint. It really seems to piss it off. Hey, there we go. Okay, maybe it will work. So this is a log from a gentleman that I had been helping out. We'd been troubleshooting problems. He had quite a few issues going on with his methanol. But this was what got us in the door. And if you look here, that orange line that's not maxed out with the throttle up here, that is the methanol flow. And if you notice, he's at like 78. Like, it's just not right. It's not at 100. And 78 was actually a big change from when he was only sitting at like 42 or 25%. But this is an example of like finding a problem in the log. Let's take a look at a lap 3 log. And this is again just an example of, actually this one was working properly. I didn't actually find a problem. We were just adjusting and tweaking. So some things to note, if you've seen my other talks, I have found better ways to display lap 3 logs inside of DataZap. I have started making extra axes, which if you look, it makes the logs look so much prettier with a nice smooth RPM and the boost curves being like that. And what we're looking for on the lap 3 log is, we're looking for methane pump status 14. And what that does is that tells us that the pump is working as intended. Again, like I said, I'm still new to lap 3, and I do thank Mr. Chung and Michael Locke for helping me out and learning some of this stuff and, getting me up to speed. Because there's definitely room to be for improvements on all the piggybacks. The lap 3 was just less understood by me in the beginning. One other cool note, if you're on the new version of the JB4 firmware, the knock corrections are showed similar to lap 3's now, which is you see a value of 0 if everything's good and a number when it's not, which I think is way easier to view than trying to view all the timing tables and flatten them, which I'm going to show you now what I mean by that. So let's talk about dialing in methanol. So you need some tools to dial in methanol. First, you need a dyno, a drag strip, or a draggy. I encourage everyone to buy draggies using my link. Like I said, I don't charge anybody to do any of this, so I'm just going to self-plug myself. If you buy a draggy using the link, I get a couple percent, which means I can buy things like front mount intercoolers and continue exploring the platform on my own car. End ad. So you need a log viewer. I personally like DataZap. I think DataZap's super powerful and it allows you to do quick adjustments and views of the logs. You need a water methanol kit, obviously. You're going to need a piggyback that we can make adjustments with, either a lap 3 or a juice box. If you don't have either, and you want one of them, use my link. The lap 3 I don't have a link for, but I think Carr can help you out. Nicholas over there can help you out with getting a lap 3. You also need a solid understanding of data logging. Like, you don't want to start tweaking if you're not sure what's going on. Check out my other video to learn more, but it's always better to err on the side of caution and make small changes. So you need that, or you need someone like me has a lot of experience. You need somewhere to test, either Mexico, a dynometer, or the drag strip. I want to talk about some data logging notes. I thought this meme was pretty applicable. My wife likes to joke about the fact that my phone goes off all hours of the night sometimes. And she'd be like, it's a stinger person, isn't it? So I thought this was pretty applicable. So data logging needs to be repeatable. You need to have similar temperatures, similar location, and similar data sets. So if you're making a 2nd to 5th gear pull, that's what I want to see each time. I don't want to see I made a 3rd gear pull to this. Right? It needs to be repeatable so we can actually see the changes and the increases that we're making. Because we can go off of logs, but logs alone doesn't tell the whole story. Having performance numbers helps quite a bit on tweaking. So You want to do what's called a WOT pull. A lot of people hear me say WOT and they don't know what it means. That means wide open throttle. That means that pedal is buried through the floorboard. And you don't want to just do like first gear. You need to do multiple gears. Ideally, an eighth mile is a good starting point. I really like to see long pulls. I always love when I get a log from anybody in Korea because it's going to be like 60 to 160. And it's like, you really know what that car's doing. And if they can stand up to that abuse, you know that tune's well dialed in and well sorted. You need to make a single gear pull on a dyno if you can't get any of these other options. I think it's fifth gear, but don't hold me to that. It might be sixth. I don't know which one's 1-to-1 off the top of my head on this car. You need to make sure you bury the pedal. I cannot stress this enough. I think that many of the guys I've helped have sent me logs initially where it's like they're like pushing 70% throttle or it's all kind of varying, and I can't do much with that. Like I need to see the wide open throttle because that's all I can really adjust with the juice box. I can't do a bunch of drivability tuning like I would with an ECU. So I'm limited. So I need to see what I can actually adjust. Uh, if you're manual shifting, practice. Nothing's more frustrating than when I get a log that's getting throttle closed and the person didn't tell me that it's manual shifting. Because sometimes I can't tell, especially on first gear. Um, and the truth is it wasn't that there was a problem, it's that they hit the red line. Fifth gear, awesome. Thank you for that confirmation, Tim. All right, let's keep on rocking through this. And thanks everyone for joining in. The next couple slides will show an example of what bad versus good is. And I do find these memes to be very applicable, especially in our community, because I see people like, ooh, I got a juice box, and now I think I'm making 450 wheel horsepower. And it's like, no, you're not. You think you are, but you're not. We can make you faster. And the other one I don't get is people who are randomly putting values in their juice box and they don't know what they're doing. That one scares me actually quite a bit. Because if you put the wrong values in the wrong places, you could damage things. And when I'm adjusting people, we make very small changes, and we takes a little bit longer than it would if I was sitting there in person driving the car myself. But you got to make small changes to make sure everything's right. Yeah, the D will over rev for catless guys I've seen. All right, so let's get into an example here, and this is a really good example. So this is the before. Actually, this is even the true before. This was the before after we got methanol flowing. Didn't change any settings. Just got the actual troubleshooting portion of the methanol fixed. This is before we did like a log review. If you look at the lines here, this is the timing. And this is what we refer to as rainbowing, or this is like an indication that something is not happy. Because all these lines are separated. That means that ignition 1 through 6 have different values. Now that could be because of knock, it could be because of learn knock, it could be because it's just displaying the methodology of the problem in this manner. Going to go with what we know right now. Lap 3 and JB4 both consider this to be a knock scenario that would cause or trigger. If it's this separated for a long period of time, that means there's been stuff going on for a bit and the car has just learned that it doesn't like that scenario. We did a few ECU resets. Still the same problem. It looked like this. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Exactly. So after looks like this, which is the same exact car running faster. He's going faster times and more consistent. And as you can see, the numbers are very close here. There's not a huge deviation, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking at timing. Is I want to see all the numbers together converged as one line as best as possible. So just one more time, that's before. That's when I first started helping the gentleman out. And that's where we got him to. So how did we get there? First off, my data says rainbowing is fine because the car learned it, but at the same time, the cars that are not rainbowing are faster. And that's what I'm going to go off of right now. It may be fine for someone who daily drives, but for those people chasing the last tenth of a eighth or tenth of a quarter, they don't want that. And those are the people who are typically coming to me. The guys who just are happy with like, basic map 2, or they got their map 6, or I'm sorry, map 7, and they're good. They're good. The guys who are reaching out to me are the guys who are like, you know what, I want to chase Tim Ball. That's I have two people that literally want to catch you at this point. Um, so go back to how we fix these problems. First off, this gentleman had put some numbers in, or they saved invalid into his juice box that were not actually the stock values I would suggest to someone. So we reset all of his EWG settings to 50 since he's not catless. We targeted a little bit lower boost than what he was targeting. I believe he was targeting like 8, and I moved it to 7. Um, and then we troubleshot the methanol system to get 100% flow. Uh, in the end, the car went faster. I think he just posted a 3.9 or a 3.8 the other day. So that's what we're going for. Make sure everything's right. That's really what this is about. So I'm going to go through the settings of methanol on a juice box real quick and the lab 3. First things first, these are the option screen. When I'm working with people, I a lot of times like to dial in my own fuel for the fuel bias. To do that, we enable option 1. Um, the water methanol settings, I believe these are currently Terry's default settings, which is the 70 additive, a signal scale of 60, and a min flow of 6. I actually run different. This is like a good starting place, but we like to tweak off of this. And depending on what the car's doing and if we've got race gas or whatnot, we've had the boost additive on some cars up very high. And I'm not suggesting anyone should go out and just put numbers in, because that's a good way to break something. The other thing we do on some of the race setups is for race mode only, we set the min flow to 1 psi. And the reason this is when the methanol kicks on, it doesn't immediately start spraying. First gear is 1.7 seconds long, or 1.5 seconds long. You need that methanol to spray as soon as you can, so you can get those trims down before you get to red line if you're auto shifting, and to get the trims down in the next gear and get everything copacetic. Because as you get into second, you don't want to have knock because there's just not enough meth there. Because the car starts adding the boost that it expects to be there for the methanol before the methanol is actually there. So these are some of the stock settings. Like I said, I have that one setting set. When I'm helping guys tweak, a lot of times I will ask them to adjust the boost additive. And what the boost additive is a multiplier off of the boost flow. So if the boost flow is at 100, 770 would be 7.0. Uh, sorry about that. I was reading Alan's thing. 7.0, if I were to, and it would taper as red line comes on. So I would ask someone to say, we've made some tests, we got good timing, everything looks solid. I might ask them to please go ahead and add in some more additive. And usually I would add like 3 to 5 at a time depending on the car. If the car is already running an 80 additive, we're on race gas, I may only add 3 at a time. Where if I had the car at 65, I may add, another 5 immediately. Let's talk about some more of the config here. On the left here, you're going to see this is the map 6 page. Ignore the map 6 boost. We're not using that on any cars other than like myself and Tim. Those of us that are stacked, we use that. But for the rest of the people, we're just sticking with map 7 at the moment because of the extra safeties that are built in. The fuel bias there, that is the fuel for the fuel wire control. You'll notice on this car, I have it targeting an 11.4. I was playing around with this car to see if adjusting between 11.8 and 11.4 made a difference on timing, and it looks like it did. By going a little lower, it seems like the car knocks less on the higher boost levels. And we were just some testing. Got a few people helping me out right now and validating some things. The duty bias on the right, that's the wastegate control. If this was an EWG car, that would be all 50s to start if it was catless. I've heard other numbers, but 50s where I start because 50 means it's not doing anything. Boost fail safe. I've seen some people have this number really high. I like to leave it at 23, 24, unless I'm doing something special. If on my car, I might turn it up if I was out testing something. Max, another one to talk about here is the max boost first. So max boost first is one of the ways we will control trims, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But that is a value I may ask somebody that's all-wheel drive to put like a 1, 2, 3 in there to help reduce the amount of boost in first gear while the methanol is still coming on to prevent the car from throttle closing at shift. And we've had really good success with this so far. I've done quite a bit of testing using this as a fuel trim control for first gear, and it works marvelously. Yep, richer means lower temps. So we were playing with it. That was the whole point. Is I wanted to see if I could make one boost level, for example, not knock or knock, based on AFRs. This is something we used to do all the time on the dyno for cars. You know, I've had cars that were like very knock prone and would not allow me to do XYZ, and I would adjust it with AFRs or timing. But since I can't just pull timing out of these cars, I got to use which tools I have, and my tools are boost and AFR at the moment. We found better performance with a little bit more boost and a little richer AFR on one specific car. Again, this is just a tool in your tool belt. When you're tuning a car, there is no one answer. If there was just one answer, tuning cars wouldn't exist because we'd all put the exact same values in, we'd all run the exact same results, and that's how it is. So it's more of a this is just a tool to have in your quiver, an arrow in your quiver. This is the lap 3. I am very new to the lap 3. I do like that you can save the file and load it. I've actually asked Terry to give us that feature because it would make it easier for me tweaking people. Um, on the left, you're seeing the boost. That's like how much more boost it's adding percent wise. In the middle, that's actually the fuel wire control on the lap 3. Again, they use percents. It's a little bit different. I'm very new to the lap 3 side. I've been mostly making suggestions to people and letting them make the adjustments on their setup. On the far right, that's the pulse width of the methanol pump. Yes, octane booster is. I mentioned that earlier. You can, but not, but for that case, I didn't want to deal with octane booster yet. I wanted to see if this would work, and it did work. It also helps with like tip and knock a little bit on the shift. Like I've noticed with the little bit richer on the target, sometimes this same car, which seemed to like not be as happy when it came into second gear, seems happier. I could be off, not sure. I can only go with the data I have at this point, and I'm trying to use the things I know about tuning and applying them to this car as best I can. Because I don't even think the fuel wires are as accurate as they report themselves to be either. Um, all right, back to lap 3. So on the right, you see the pump flow. That's the control for their pump. This is their custom config. Their regular config is actually right here, a little bit different. I don't want to comment too much on this because I am still super new on this side. But if I understand correctly, boost additive is basically the same as our boost additive. The min kick on is a 1.8, which kind of reinforces the thing I was talking about for using a 1 for your initial boost kick on. I thought that was super cool. You can also control the window which methanol works on this car on lap 3. So you can tell it to come on at say 1500 instead of 2000, which means you can get the methanol primed and starting while you're doing your launch. Instead of having a max flow that you set, you actually set the max boost that the methanol would reach 100% at. And this is actually very similar like how, I want to say AEM did it. It's been a while since I've tuned aftermarket methanol controllers, but a few of them used a min-max as how they ramped up their boost, or their methanol. Um, I can't answer calls right now, people. I'm giving talks. Sorry, someone with a G70 2.0 wanted some help, and they tried to call me. So this is the basic settings. Wanted to show it off. I'm still learning about how it works. The meth mode enable on. The user mode just means we're using the user config page and not the regular the regular config method. Some other thoughts, and we're about to wrap this talk up. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat now. Okay, so methanol under launch control. So methanol takes time to kick in. If you turn the pump on, I want to say there's a couple seconds delay based on the fuel trims before it reaches full flow. So if you run the default setting on a JB4, that says that the methanol doesn't come on until 6 psi. You're not going to trigger that during launch control. You're not going to trigger that during brake snip even on most setups. Well, if you're in beast mode, you would, but um, so what happens is you launch, JB4 reacts, methanol turns on, and it starts flowing by second gear. If you turn that number down to a 1, now it triggers sooner, and you actually get a little bit of methanol flow in first gear. And on the few cars we've been testing this with, it has prevented throttle close on automatic shifting on those cars. So it helped us get a better first gear experience. And on the lap 3, their default config, this is the config they suggested people, actually takes advantage of that same concept. So I thought that was pretty cool because they can control, like, I can't control the throttle pedal, which the meth kicks on JB4. It's 50%. On the lap 3, you can actually set it, which I thought was pretty cool. I think the lap 3 is a neat product. I think it's a little expensive, but it's still a neat product. And if someone has it, they shouldn't, you got a decent product. It'll make your car go fast. I prefer the JB4, but it gets it done. All right, some other thoughts. This is just some general thoughts. It's not meant to be things you necessarily take, and I just wanted to spit them out because they were in my brain today. First off, I'm going to start with the brake snip. This is a risky mod. You can destroy shit. Launch control has safeties and things in place because someone decided somewhere that this was the safe way, and they tested it and they liked it. So it's risky. You could destroy your transmission, your differential. You're going to cook some tires because it's going to launch like a monster. But you can use it semi-safely by keeping the launches under control. You don't sit on it. Being smart about the way you use it. The reward for that risk is you can get 1.8 60 foots or better. Right now, the only people getting 1.8s or 1.7s are brake snip and torque stage 2 beta guys. So there's two torque stage 2 cars, I believe, that use the new launch control that can cut 1.8s. There is and the brake snip also can cut a 1.8. This is really important if you're a racer. Let me give a comment based on stuff I've been told. People have blown up the transmissions, and brake boosting on the freeway is probably not a great idea. I've heard of a couple torque converters exploded from this already. First gear boost reductions. I think this is a great method of controlling the fuel trims and allowing you to run a little more boost in the higher gears. Because the higher gears actually remove a little bit of boost out anyways from whatever you're targeting. So if you were targeting, like, say, 22 was happening in first, you'd probably get 20 in the higher gears with the way JB4 is configured now. So you can actually target higher by using these reductions. You can help with traction on the rear-wheel drive cars. So far, I've been able to get a few rear-wheel drive guys doing 2.0s. I have not cracked anything below a 2.0 on a rear-wheel drive car yet. I'm hoping. I know that Torque Motorsports recently bought drag radials and is planning to throw the LSD in their rear-wheel drive car, so we might see some craziness happen there. We just need to get the tracks open and stuff. Manual shifting. This is a really good one, but it also leaves a lot of room for making mistakes. It's faster than letting the car shift itself. All the record cars right now are manual shifting. All the Korean guys who street race are manual shifting. I still haven't done it yet on my car, but it does get around some problems. The throttle trim close that tends to happen on the throttle trim close that tends to happen related to fuel trims. If you manual shift, you can prevent that. Let me answer Alan's question real quick. Oh, yes. There's somebody who answered in chat. So shifting by hand is faster. I've been told that the right places to pull the paddle shifter is 5,000 for first, and that gets you around a 6,000 RPM shift, 5,500 per second, and almost 6,000 for the rest of the gears. If anyone has a better pattern than that, put it in the chat. This doesn't mean you're shifting at 5,500. This means you're telling the car to shift at 5,500. It takes it like zero point 0.4 milliseconds for that shift to happen. And I got that zero point 0.4 milliseconds value from the Motec calibration. Oh, oh my god. Boom. The 1 PSI methanol. This is a race mode only thing. It does have some potential drawbacks, but I think it's a great way to go, and I drive my car with it set to that. Methanol still won't kick on below 2,000 and below 50% throttle, but if you have it set to 1 PSI meth mode, that means you can actually launch and get meth triggered a little bit sooner. I'm going to talk about the EWG wires a little bit. Um, I got a set for myself recently as a thank you from someone for all the JB4 stuff I'd recently done, and I haven't put them in yet. I haven't actually been able to drive my car. I need tires right now, but I do plan to and play with them a little bit. What I have seen from them is if you're a catalyst car, they're a lifesaver for the overboost scenario. You can reduce it and get some of that back under control. I've also seen, and I'm still testing, and I do not suggest, let me repeat this one more time, I do not suggest anyone just go playing with this. But on a test car, I have seen that if we raise the EWG a little bit towards redline, we're getting firmer shifts per the owner of the car. And in the logs, it seems like it's shifting a little bit faster. That could be just an anomaly in the way the logging happens. I'm not 100% sure yet. I want to get more data, but we are playing with some very slight increases on the top end on a catted car. This is the end of my talk. I want everyone out there. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Hope I answered some questions. I hope I kept the data as true as possible. I want to say thanks to everyone for tuning in. And if you do buy a Burger Motorsports item, please use my link. Help Will get more parts. Uh, I don't necessarily need to be the fastest guy out there, but the more parts I have on my car, the more tweaking and testing and more experience I personally get. And tuning a car, you can know how to tune, but really the experience on the platform is what makes the difference. I tuned lots of Subarus, but I never tuned any super, super, super high horsepower Subarus. But I tuned lots of super high horsepower GMs. And the experience I learned tuning those super high horsepowers taught me more about the car than tuning, 100 stage 2 and 3 cars. I didn't talk to Motec about it. I just here.